we're dreaming of reaching our first 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe and be the first to discover new stories every day. She sat at the kitchen table with a glass of red wine, her legs crossed, her face turned slightly away like I wasn't even there. Her friend was laughing at something, and Olivia didn't even look up when I walked in. I started telling them about something funny that happened during my lecture. A student mistaking the Medici family for a brand of coffee, and mid-sentence, she cut me off. Nick, nobody cares. Just stop. Her tone was flat. Her friend blinked and smiled awkwardly. My mouth stayed open for a moment, like my brain hadn't caught up to the silence that followed. And she just kept sipping her wine, like what she said wasn't a blade through my chest. I stood there, holding the grocery bag, feeling like some extra in a movie about my own life. You ever have a moment where you realize, really realize, that the person across from you doesn't see you anymore? That was mine. I teach history at a state university. Nothing fancy, mid-sized campus, aging buildings, and a bunch of undergrads who mostly show up half asleep or hungover. Some days I walk into lecture and feel like I'm talking to walls. Other days, one student will ask something that lights up the room, and it reminds me why I love this job. It's not about the prestige. It's about the rhythm. The smell of books, the yellowed maps pinned to my office walls, the creak of the old wooden chairs in the lecture hall. It's order, structure, meaning. That's probably why I fell so hard for Olivia. We met in the university library. She was standing by the card catalog. Yes, our library still had one, mumbling to herself while flipping through index cards. Her red hair was falling out of a messy bun, and she looked completely absorbed in her mission. I was looking for an old Renaissance volume, something niche, and I offered to help her dig. We didn't find the book, but we ended up grabbing coffee at the student union and arguing about whether Raphael deserved more credit than Michelangelo. She had this spark, man. She was all sharp lines and bright eyes, never afraid to challenge me, even when she didn't know what she was talking about. Especially then. She was a graphic designer working on her master's, obsessed with fonts and colors and layout grids. I never cared about that stuff, but I liked how passionate she was. How alive. We started slow. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became drinks. Drinks turned into her falling asleep with her head on my chest while I read her passages from old history texts. We moved in together a year later. One-bedroom apartment not far from campus. Tiny kitchen, slanted floors, heating that made weird noises in the winter. But it was ours. She used to call me her professor in this teasing tone. Once, she sketched me in my old sweater, buried in books, holding a chipped mug of tea. She pinned it on our wall above the desk and kissed me on the forehead. My very own overworked nerd, she said. Evenings were the best. We'd sit on the balcony wrapped in a blanket, drinking cheap wine from mismatched glasses. She'd doodle on her tablet or sketchbooks, and I'd go over lectures or read academic papers out loud, pausing when she made a face like I was boring her to death. But she always smiled afterward. That smile, like the world was a little brighter because I was in it. We used to dream a lot. Rome, Athens, Petra. We'd watch travel documentaries and bookmark places. She'd draw travel outfits, and I'd joke about turning our vacation into a walking lecture tour. She'd laugh, say, "As long as we stop for gelato every hour, I'm in." For the first 3 years, life had a rhythm. Mornings started with coffee and her half-asleep mumbling while brushing her teeth. I'd come home with pastries from the bakery near the subway. She'd cook something simple. Her baked mac and cheese was my favorite, and we'd eat late, music playing in the background, nothing fancy. I'd tell her about the kid who argued Cleopatra was Greek because she looked Greek on TV, and she'd roll her eyes like, "How do you not strangle these people?" She'd tell me about her clients arguing over shades of beige, and we'd end up laughing until our stomachs hurt. It felt solid, like we were building something. But, looking back, I guess the cracks were already there. Small ones. Hairline fractures that didn't make noise until they started to spread. One of the first times I felt it, really felt it, was maybe 4 years in. I came home a bit later than usual. I'd stayed after class to talk to a student who'd just lost his father and wanted to defer his thesis. It had been a heavy conversation. I remember walking home with this weight in my chest. I stopped by the pastry shop to get her favorite almond tartlets. Figured we'd have a quiet evening. When I walked in, she was on the couch scrolling her phone, a half-eaten salad container on the coffee table. No hello. No glance up. "Hey," I said, holding up the bag. "Got your favorite." She looked over briefly. "Cool. I already ate." I stood there for a second, still holding the bag like an idiot. "Everything okay?" She shrugged. "Just tired." Tired. That word became the refrain. The shield. The wall. She stopped cooking. Stopped joining me on the balcony. The wine glasses gathered dust. The sketchbook she once carried everywhere sat untouched on the desk. Our conversations became one-word check-ins. Fine. Busy. Later. At first, I thought it was work stress. She had a few nightmare clients, deadlines piling up. I offered to help. Bring her coffee, order takeout, run errands. Anything. But every gesture was met with indifference. Some nights I'd reach for her in bed, and she'd roll away. Not now, she'd mumble. I'm just not in the mood. Weeks passed. Then months. You ever lie awake next to someone and feel lonelier than if you were completely alone? Yeah, that. I started questioning everything. Was I boring her? Was I too routine? Too wrapped up in my work? I tried to mix it up, planned a weekend away, booked a hotel near the lake. She agreed at first, then backed out last minute. Too much going on. You go. I need a quiet weekend. So I went alone. Sat by the water with a notebook and tried to write something, anything, to take my mind off the growing silence between us. When I got back, she didn't even ask how it went. Then came the little dismissals. Why do you always talk about your students? Can't we just watch something? You read too much. Seriously, do you ever stop? One night, I brought up Rome again, remembering how we used to talk about walking the ruins at sunset. She rolled her eyes and said, "You and your ruins. You're obsessed with dead things." It stung, but I laughed it off. That's what you do, right? You tell yourself it's a phase, a slump, a rough patch. People change. Life gets messy. You hang in. Because the alternative is admitting it's not working. And I wasn't ready to admit that. Not yet. The first real slap in the face, the moment that made me stop pretending, came one evening after a long day of back-to-back lectures. I was drained. Hadn't eaten. I picked up some wine, grabbed her favorite soup from that little cafe by the station. Thought we could sit down and just reconnect. When I walked in, Olivia was at the table with her friend Kara. They were halfway through a bottle of red, laughing. I smiled, told them about some dumb thing a student did, just trying to be part of the evening. That's when she shut me down. Cold. Nick, nobody cares. The silence after that? Deafening. I remember the sound of the wine bottle hitting the counter as I set it down. The slow burn crawling up my neck. Her friend looking anywhere but at me. I didn't yell. Didn't slam anything. I just stood there, realizing I'd become a ghost in my own home. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, and sat in the dark, listening to their laughter carry on like I didn't exist. I'll stop here for now. There's more. A lot more. But that was the beginning of the end, even if I didn't know it then. You ever catch yourself holding on to a version of someone that doesn't exist anymore? Yeah, me too. The shift didn't happen all at once. It was like someone turning a dimmer switch, barely noticeable at first, until suddenly the room's dark and you're wondering how long you've been sitting in the shadows. After that night with Kara, I started paying attention more. Little things. She stopped looking up when I came home. Stopped asking how my day was. Stopped touching me. Not in a dramatic way. Just like I wasn't someone she needed to touch anymore. Even accidental brushes of the hand were gone. I'd hand her a coffee mug and her fingers would avoid mine like it was a reflex. And I don't know what's worse, being yelled at or being ignored. You can yell back. You can't fight silence. I tried asking her once. "Liv, are we okay?" She didn't even pause her scrolling. "We're fine." "What?" "I don't know. You feel distant." She gave this tiny, tired sigh. "I'm just busy, Nick. Don't read into everything." Busy. Another word on the list. Busy. Tired. Later. But never. Let's talk. Never. I miss you. Never. Help me understand. I found myself overcompensating. Started cooking more. Leaving little notes. Buying flowers, even though she always said they were a waste of money. I'd text her during the day just to check in. Most of the time she didn't reply. When she did, it was short. Me. Thinking of you. Want to do Thai tonight? Her, whatever. Me. You okay? Her, yep. There were no emojis. No warmth. No Olivia. I brought it up again one Sunday morning while she was making coffee. I asked if she wanted to take a walk, just the two of us. It was sunny, crisp air, that kind of day where everything smells like leaves and distant barbecue smoke. She shook her head. "I have stuff to do." I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't wearing the ring anymore. I hadn't even noticed when it disappeared. "Did you take off your ring?" She blinked. "Huh, your wedding band. You're not wearing it." She looked down at her hand like it was a stranger's. "Oh yeah?" It was snagging on my sweater. Meant to put it back. But she never did. And I stopped asking. My office at the university became my safe place. I started spending more time there, grading, prepping, pretending to be busy. I'd stare at the dusty globe in the corner or trace the edge of my desk with a pencil for 20 minutes just to avoid going home. One night, I stayed late grading midterms and completely lost track of time. Got home around 10. When I walked in, she was in the living room, glass of wine in one hand, some Netflix rom-com paused on screen. She didn't ask where I'd been. Didn't look up. "Hey," I said, setting my bag down. "Did you eat?" "Nope." "Want me to make something?" "No thanks. I'm good. She didn't look at me once. So I heated up leftovers, ate standing at the counter in silence, and went to bed without saying another word. That became the new normal. I'd wake up. She'd already be gone or in the shower with the door locked. I'd come home. She'd be on her phone or out with friends. No fights. No drama. Just a constant, low-grade rejection humming in the background like a broken fridge. It was exhausting. One night I got home and saw her by the window talking on the phone. Her voice was different. Softer. She laughed. The way she used to laugh with me. She didn't know I was there yet. I didn't hear a name. Just her saying, "No, I can't tonight, maybe later this week." Yeah, I'd like that. When she turned and saw me, she flinched like I'd startled her. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "Just a friend." "What kind of friend?" She shrugged. "Just someone from my design group." There was something in her tone. Not defensive. Not guilty. Just bored. Like the question itself was beneath her. "You've been out a lot lately." So, so, I barely see you anymore." She gave the smirk. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. That was the first time I actually had to walk out of the room just to stop myself from saying something I couldn't take back. I went for a walk. No jacket. Just my hoodie and the sound of my sneakers hitting the sidewalk too hard. I passed the bakery we used to love, the old record shop we dig through on weekends. Everything looked the same. Except me. I felt like I'd aged 10 years in one. By the time I came back, she was asleep on the couch. Phone still in her hand. Then came the night she didn't come home at all. No call. No text. Nothing. I stayed up until 2 a.m. staring at the door like a dog. At 2:17, I got a text. "Staying at Karis. Don't wait up." No explanation. No apology. I didn't respond. The next morning she came back like nothing happened. Tossed her keys on the counter, poured a glass of orange juice, and started flipping through a magazine. "Morning," she said like we were roommates. I stared at her. "You really think this is okay?" "What?" "You disappearing. Not calling. Just vanishing for a night. I told you where I was. At 2 in the morning." She rolled her eyes. "God, Nick. Why do you have to make everything so dramatic?" That was her word for me. Dramatic. Overthinking. Pressuring. "You don't talk to me," I said. "You don't look at me. You don't sleep next to me. But I'm the problem." She put the juice down hard enough to splash. "You smother me." That word hit different. Smother. As if caring was suffocating her. "I can't breathe around you anymore," she added, her voice rising now. "You're always there, hovering, needing something. I need space." "Then take it," I said, quieter than I expected. She blinked. "What? If you need space so badly, take it. I'm not chasing you." That was the first time I saw uncertainty in her eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Just confusion. Like she didn't expect me to stop begging. She left the apartment again that night. Said she needed a break. Not forever, just some time. Didn't say when she'd be back. Didn't pack much. Just a bag and her charger. I sat on the bed afterward, staring at the spot where her sketchbook used to be. The ring she never put back was still missing. A week passed. Then 2. She didn't come back. We texted a few times. Cold, clipped messages. Then one night, I stopped by her friend Marissa's place. Olivia had left some art supplies there, and I offered to grab them. Marissa opened the door wearing one of those oversized cardigans that looked like it belonged to a yoga retreat. She smiled like she knew something I didn't. "You okay?" she asked. I shrugged. "Sure. Just here for Liv's stuff." She disappeared into the back room, came back with a canvas bag full of pencils and sketch pads. Then she hesitated. "She's always been like this, you know." I looked up. "Like what?" "Hot and cold. Pull you in, push you out. Makes you feel like you're the center of the world, then acts like you're in the way." I didn't answer. She poured 2 glasses of wine, handed me one unprompted. "I mean, you're not the first," she said, sitting down. She likes the game. Gets bored easily. When the attention fades, she pulls away. Always has. I sat there holding the glass, but didn't drink it. "Did she ever tell you that?" I asked. Marissa shook her head. "She doesn't think it's a problem. She thinks it's normal." I left not long after. Drove home in silence. No music. No thoughts. Just the hum of the engine and the realization that the woman I built a life with was never really building one with me. That I'd been in a one-sided relationship for years and only just now had the guts to admit it. Not because she said something, but because someone else finally did. The day of my parents' anniversary started like any other. Quiet morning. Empty apartment. Coffee brewed, untouched. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the message Olivia had sent 2 days earlier. "Don't forget your mom's thing is Saturday." No we. No us. Just a reminder, like she was reading it off a calendar someone else had filled out. We'd already bought the gift together. A beautiful stoneware dinner set my mom had been eyeing forever. Olivia picked the pattern herself, sage green with a thin gold rim. I thought maybe that meant something. Maybe that was her way of being involved, of showing she still cared. But the night before the dinner, she came out of the bedroom zipping up a weekend bag. I'm going to Emily's cabin for a couple days. Girls thing. I blinked. What do you mean? Tomorrow's the anniversary dinner. I know. I just need a break, Nick. I've been saying that. I stood there frozen, watching her stuff sneakers into her bag like she was late for a flight. We talked about this, I said. You said we'd go together. I didn't promise anything. You picked the damn gift, Olivia. She sighed. Not angrily. Not even annoyed. Just bored. I'm not obligated to show up everywhere you want me to be. It's your family, not mine. Those words sat in the air like fog. You're my wife, I said, and it came out slower than I expected. She gave a tight smile. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And with that, she was out the door. No kiss. No see you Sunday. Just gone. I drove to my parents' place the next evening. Hour outside the city. They live in a modest, split-level house with a wide front porch and wind chimes that jingle every time someone opens the screen door. My dad was setting up folding chairs in the backyard when I arrived. My mom peeked out of the kitchen, hands floured up from baking her famous stuffed bread. Where's Liv? I smiled. I lied. She had a last-minute thing. Sends her love. My mom nodded, disappointed but polite enough not to press. The evening rolled on. My cousins told the same dumb jokes. My uncle fell asleep in the recliner before dessert. My dad poured wine, made a toast, kissed my mom's hand in front of everyone. 30 years. 30 years of shared dinners, inside jokes, disagreements that didn't turn into disappearances. I looked around at all of them laughing and eating and telling stories, and I realized I was the only one faking it. I checked my phone once. A single text. All good. Cabin's cute. Enjoy the dinner. No photo. No heart emoji. Not even my name. Just nothing. I got home that night close to midnight. Her keys weren't on the hook. No coat on the rack. Just her sketchbook on the shelf gathering dust like it had for months. I poured myself a glass of water and sat in the armchair facing the wall where she'd pinned the portrait of me. Me in that sweater, holding a mug, surrounded by books. It used to make me feel seen. Now it felt like a relic. I turned the frame around. Didn't take it down. Didn't rip it. Just turned it around so I didn't have to look at it anymore. She came back Sunday evening. The bag hit the floor, her jacket tossed carelessly on the armrest. Hey, she said casually, walking to the kitchen like she'd run to the store. I didn't respond. She looked over. What's up? Did you have fun? I asked, still sitting. She nodded. Yeah, it was nice. Quiet. I let that sit. Then I said it. You didn't even ask how it went. She turned slowly. What? The dinner. My parents. The thing you bailed on. You didn't ask how it went. She tilted her head. I figured it was fine. I stood up. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just enough. You didn't call. You didn't text until late. You didn't even say sorry. She crossed her arms. Nick, I don't owe you a play-by-play every time I need some time for myself. Time for yourself is one thing. Disappearing and acting like it's normal is something else. Her expression hardened. God, you're so needy. That word again. Needy. Smothering. Dramatic. I walked to the bedroom and started pulling out a suitcase. She followed, arms still crossed. What are you doing? Giving you all the space you want. She frowned. What, you're leaving? No, I said calmly. I'm packing your things. You're the one who wanted space. Take it. She blinked. You're being ridiculous. I zipped the bag. You want to live your life without me in it? Go ahead. But not here. Not while I keep playing husband to a ghost. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. She just stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. I opened the front door and placed the bag outside. You should go. She took a long breath, then stepped outside, grabbing her coat wordlessly. I closed the door behind her and locked it. Not in anger. Not to make a point. Just to feel like the space was mine again. It's been weeks since then. I didn't tell anyone right away. I didn't make some big announcement. No social media posts. No long text chains. I just lived. And slowly, things got quiet. Not the cold, heavy silence of our apartment, but the good kind. The kind that makes room for thought. I started eating breakfast at the diner near campus again. Carol, the waitress, remembered my order. Extra crispy hash browns and coffee, no sugar. I stayed later at the office, but not to avoid home. Just because I liked being there again. I started writing again. Articles. Lecture notes. Even played with the idea of a book. It didn't feel like filling a hole. It felt like remembering who I was before I bent myself out of shape to keep someone happy who didn't want to be kept. Then, out of nowhere, I saw her. I was coming out of the hardware store with a new desk lamp when I heard someone say my name. Nick. I turned. It was her. Hair shorter. No makeup. Jacket I didn't recognize. She looked tired. Not bad. Just worn in a way I didn't remember. I was hoping I might run into you, she said, stepping closer. I didn't say anything. She bit her lip. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. I don't know. I guess I didn't realize what I had until. Until you didn't have to pretend anymore? I asked. She winced. That's not fair. No, I said. But it's true. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, she said finally. For how I treated you. For shutting down. For not listening. I nodded. Okay. Just okay. I appreciate you saying that. I really do. She blinked, waiting. But I didn't add anything. She swallowed. Do you think maybe, at some point, we could? No. She closed her eyes for half a second. Right. I adjusted the bag in my hand. You look good, she said, voice softer now. I feel good. I turned to go, and she didn't follow. Just stood there, alone on the sidewalk, like she was finally the one left behind. That was the last time I saw her. No dramatic goodbye. No second chances. Just closure. And honestly, that was enough. After that last meeting on the sidewalk, everything just settled. Not in a dramatic way. No explosions. No long emails or phone calls. No dramatic reentries into each other's lives. Just distance. And silence. And peace. The apartment stayed quiet for a while. At first, it felt hollow, like walking through a museum after closing time. I'd catch myself reaching for her mug in the cabinet, or hesitating before hitting play on something we used to watch together. But then I started putting the space to use. I rearranged the furniture. Moved the couch away from the window because the light hit wrong in the mornings. Donated the old throw pillows she loved and replaced them with simpler ones. Plain, warm colors. I tossed the dusty candles and the stack of unused sketch pads that had sat untouched for months. I finally put up the framed map of Rome she always said clashed with the room. And it felt good. Not like revenge. Not like cleansing. Just mine. I wasn't building a new life. I was finally living in the one that had been waiting under all the noise. Work got better too. I started holding office hours out on the quad when the weather was nice. Students showed up more than I expected. We'd sit on the grass and talk about timelines and politics and which empire had the dumbest collapse. I cracked more jokes in class. Wrote with less caution. Even got invited to speak at a small conference in Portland, which I hadn't done in years. People started noticing the change. My department had mentioned I looked lighter. A student asked if I'd been on vacation, but I hadn't gone anywhere. Just took a few steps back from pretending. It's funny how much space that frees up. A few weeks later, Kara, the friend who was there the night Olivia told me to shut up, ran into me at a bookstore downtown. I was in the history section, flipping through a biography on Lincoln when she came around the corner holding a latte and a new planner. She looked surprised to see me. You look good, she said, after the initial awkward greeting. Thanks. I feel clearer, I guess. She nodded slowly. She didn't handle things right. I told her that. I didn't say anything. She thought you'd cave. You always used to. That got a chuckle out of me. Yeah, I did. Kara looked down at her drink. She was wrong. That was all we said. She gave me a polite smile and walked away. And that was fine too. I started sleeping better. That sounds simple, but it felt huge. No more late nights staring at the ceiling. No more wondering who she was texting or if I was just a background prop in someone else's story. I didn't even realize how much tension I'd been carrying in my chest until it wasn't there anymore. The morning routines felt different too. Coffee tasted like coffee, not a pause between resentments. My walk to campus didn't feel like a retreat. It felt like a rhythm again. My space. My steps. My silence. I'd throw on a podcast. Sometimes just music. Sometimes nothing at all. There's a kind of clarity that only shows up when you stop begging for noise. One Sunday, a month or two after everything settled, I sat on the balcony with a blanket and a bottle of that same cheap wine we used to drink. Just me this time. The breeze was cool. Somewhere in the distance, someone was grilling. I could hear a basketball bouncing in the park. And I remembered how we used to sit out there, Olivia and I. How she'd lean her head on my shoulder and draw stupid caricatures of our neighbors. How I used to read passages from my lectures while she fake snored for effect. It wasn't bitterness I felt. Not even regret. Just the softness of an old memory. Like seeing your childhood bedroom in a photo. Familiar, but not something you'd want to move back into. I took a sip of wine and smiled to myself. That part of my life existed. It mattered, but it was done. A few weeks after that, the papers were finalized. No fight. No lawyers. No list of who gets what. Just two people signing off on a life that had already been over for a while. She didn't come to drop them off. Just sent them through a courier. A thin man with a clipboard and a tired smile. I signed them at the kitchen table. Fed the guy a cup of coffee while he waited. Then I went out and bought myself a new desk chair. One that didn't squeak. One she didn't pick. Small thing. But it felt like drawing a line. I think the hardest part about moving on isn't the big moments. It's the quiet ones. Walking past a bakery and remembering she liked their lemon bars. Seeing someone in a red coat and thinking, for half a second, it's her. Reaching for your phone when something funny happens and realizing there's no one to send it to anymore. But then you realize something else. You're okay anyway. You laugh by yourself. You eat the damn lemon bar. You keep walking. And the world doesn't end. It just gets simpler. One night, I met up with an old friend from grad school, Ben. He teaches at another college a few towns over. We hadn't seen each other in years. We sat at a bar, had a couple beers, caught up on mutual colleagues and campus gossip. At one point, he leaned back and said, "So, you divorced now, huh?" I nodded. "Yeah." He raised his glass. "To peace." I clinked his glass. "To peace." Then he asked, "You dating again?" I shrugged. "Not really. Not ready." "No," I said. "Just not rushing." He nodded like he got it. Because he did. We didn't need to spell it out. The weirdest part? I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. Don't fantasize about getting even or proving her wrong. I just hope she figures herself out. Whatever that means. Because the version of her I loved? She's gone. Maybe she was never really there the way I thought. Maybe she changed. Maybe I did. Doesn't matter anymore. What matters is, I stopped pretending. I stopped living in limbo. And I started living for real again. So, if you're still here, listening to all this, maybe you're going through something similar. Maybe you're staring at someone who looks like a stranger, wondering where the hell the warmth went. Maybe you're stuck in that space between leaving and holding on. I don't have advice. But I'll say this. You'll know when it's time. Not because someone tells you. Not because they push you to the edge. But because, one day, you'll realize you've already let go. You're just waiting to catch up to the truth. And when you do, it's quieter. It's lonelier, sure. But it's real. And that's something. That's everything. Thanks for hearing me out. Sometimes all a man needs is to tell the truth once out loud. Even if it's just over a beer.